Alright, so in today's video I'm going to show you the best. I'm going to give you the advice as to what is the best build when you begin the game. Have in mind that a lot of this is just personal take, personal opinion. This is how I like to play my Souls-likes. This is how I like to level up my character. You might have different input if you're a veteran player, but might as well. The comment section down below is open to you and your input is very valuable. Usually people here on the channel is very helpful and they offer great advice on making characters, builds and ways of different playstyles and opinions on how they play. That said, I am going to show you my way of playing this game. See if you're a new player, you're interested in Lords of the Fallen. Have in mind that the previewers have said that boss fights are really not that difficult here, so it might be a good starting point to begin your journey on Souls-likes. That being said, I want to focus a little bit on two stats before we actually start talking about the damage. We're not going to talk about scaling, weapon scaling that much in today's video, other than what the starting classes already have as a pre-established base and basis. That said, the two main stats that I want to focus on is endurance and vitality. Endurance is going to give you stamina, vitality is going to give you HP. And the original thing that I like to do, especially when it comes to HP, I always like to focus myself on early game to 15 vitality. There are some classes that already have 15 vitality, so they can focus a little bit on something extra, on something a little bit different, because I think that in every Souls-like, we always have more than enough to begin with 15 vitality. That's more than enough. As you progress, as you level up, you probably at the mid game you want to have 25 vitality. At least that's me. There's going to be people out there that is going to tell you that the focus of these games is not being hit because you're still going to take damage. Well, yeah, you are going to get hits and you need to heal, and you need to have quite a lot of health to be able to heal that portion of damage. And you also want to take a little bit of punishment. So in vitality, mid game, 25 is the sweet spot that I like to do in every single Souls-like that I play. Late game, at late game we should try to find out what is the soft cap. How is our character developing? Depending on the soft cap, at late game and end game you want to have your vitality either on 40 or 50. 40 if the soft caps and the character level is being kind to you, the levels don't cost that much, you see that you're still getting amazing returns into health, then you can probably take 50. If you see that you're struggling, you should stop at 40. It kind of depends, but usually 40 to 50 that is going to be the sweet spot. And then endurance. Endurance is also going to be highly reliant and highly dependable on your class. Some classes are going to need endurance, some classes are not going to need that much endurance. It also depends on whether would you like to use heavy armor or not. Remember that endurance has an impact on our weight capacity. We do not want to be fat rolling. That is the quintessential part of everything. We do not want to be fat rolling. At least I personally don't like to be fat rolling. Have in mind as well that in this game, shields don't actually give you 100% block chance. It has a rally system similar to what we have in Bloodborne and Lies of P, where you receive damage while you are blocking, you can regain that damage back. Sure, it is nice to block more damage, not to have to regain that much health, but ideally I think that one of the things, this is something that I like to do in Lies of P, this is something that I did in Lies of P, since I was receiving cheap damage, I just decided not to block at all and just roll and dodge. That was my playstyle. But also have in mind that you have the perfect parry, which the mechanic is exactly the same as it was on Lies of P. You block just before the last moment, you don't have to press extra inputs to parry, so there's that. Having that in mind, it is in your best interest to roll fast. If you're going to be using light armor, then 20, it's probably going to be more than enough. 25, stretching it too much, you're going to be using heavy armor, and you're probably going to want to pop up endurance all the way to 30 or 40 once you reach the end game. If you're going to be using very heavy armor with very heavy boings, then you probably are going to want to have a parallel balance between vitality and endurance. Now let's talk about the individual classes and how do we want to build them. to get the most out of them. There's 2 archetypes for each starting class. Have in mind as well that even if you decide to take one class, it doesn't really matter that you are going to be that class. Maybe later on you find out that you like a spell and that you want to level up Inferno, or you want to level up Radiance, or maybe you found a agility weapon that you would like to use. Then you can branch into something different. And also we do have respec, quite a lot of respec in this game, so that's something that has to be said as well. So your starting class only determines how you're going to start the game and how are you going to min-max your character. Also respecting your character, it's also for min-max purposes, but ideally you're not going to begin with many different stats to branch out, and you can basically do what you want to do. That said, let's begin with the 2 strength archetypes, which is going to be the Hallowed Knight and the Udrangr Werewolf. At first I thought that the Hallowed Knight it was going to be a quality build, but no, it's actually a strength build, but it's a strength one that its focus is a little bit more on survivability at the very beginning of the game. So you want to make a boink, you want to make a heavy hitter, but still you want to play it safe at the beginning of the game. Then the Hallowed Knight is your way to go. It has a weapon that scales mainly on strength. It has a C scaling on strength, and it has a E scaling on dexterity. It has 12 points into strength, and it also has already 15 points into endurance and 11 into vitality. That endurance points that you have right there, they're probably to bypass the heavy armor that you are wearing. But if it's not enough, then you're probably going to want to pop up this a little bit. Ideally, on the early game, like I said, you want to pop up that vitality all the way to 15, and then furthermore increase that. This is like an archetype for a heavy armor strength character, probably that is going to have sword and shield, things like that. So what you want to do with this character is just pop up your endurance and vitality to 25 very early in the game. Like I said, you're going to need quite a lot of endurance with this character because of the heavy armor, and you already have quite a lot of strength. Once you have managed to get like 20-20 between endurance and vitality, you can start allocating points into damage, which is going to be a strength. At that point you probably found the weapon that is going to suit your playstyle, but you do have a weapon that scales with strength, so it's safe to say that you can place 20 early points right here, and then just level up those evenly: strength, endurance, and vitality. For a pure playstyle for this character, you're not going to need that much, although you do have to focus a little bit on endurance. And then we have the Udrangr Werewolf. This guy has even more strength, and you'll notice that he doesn't have that much endurance because he's not wearing heavy armor. So if you're going to be using his heavy armor, also have in mind that he has a longsword. The longsword is naturally quite heavy. Strength weapons are naturally going to be quite heavy naturally, and you probably want to be using heavy armor, so it is in your best interest to level up endurance as well. The thing is that this guy starts with a little bit more damage because it has more points into strength. You still have to focus on vitality. It is ideal that you level up early game vitality at least on 15 to be able to survive. You already have strength 16, so that's nice. That's ideal from the very beginning of the game. You already have quite a lot of strength to be able to deal that much damage. And the scaling of this weapon, it's a C scaling on strength. So if you want to be using this weapon as a main means of using this weapon while you find your main weapon, which is going to be either a hammer or a huge longsword, then you're good to go with the weapon that this guy has. You're not going to be placing points into agility if it's not just to be able to use the weapons that you are going to be finding along the way. So that is why you're going to have right there all of those things. Endurance is not going to be that important again with this character if you're not going to be using heavy armor. The armor that he has right now as a base, it's not really that important, so 20 at the early stages of the game, that should be more than enough if you want to be changing for heavy things that you find on the way, and you might want to pop out this thing a little bit more. Moving on into the partisan. The partisan is a little bit more of a round character, and it's a little bit more difficult to build because it's a quality build. So it has 13 in strength, 12 agility, 12 endurance, and 12 vitality. As you can see, it's a very, very balanced class. It also has a crossbow and a shield. Have in mind that a quality build, while it has the advantage of being able to be more viable when it comes to New Game Plus, because you don't have that much spread points into stat allocation. That is always quite nice. So this guy is going to need like a middle, in between middle endurance. I'd say that getting this thing to 25 at mid game, that should be more than enough. At that point you can decide if you're going to be using medium armor or heavy armor to fat roll or not, but 25 should be the sweet spot. Vitality, this guy again, it has 12, so that's nice. You don't really have to worry about that much leveling up on early stages of the game. Mid game, like always, 25. Late game, 50 to 40, depending on how the stat allocation is in here. The main damage stat, since this guy is going to be a quality, you have to be looking for a quality build that is going to weapon that is going to increase the stat allocation with strength and agility, but ideally the max that you want to do right here to play it safe until we know the soft caps is going to be at the end game. 25 strength, 25 agility, mid game something like 20, early 17. You are going to be increasing your damage quite substantially if you're placing those points right there. Not much is going to change right here with the Moread infantry. It's still going to be a quality build, and as you can see, the stat allocation is very similar. You have 12 strength, 14 agility, 12 endurance, and 11 vitality. I think that this weapon does lean a little bit more into agility, so one is more focused into a quality strength, the other one is more a quality agility. Needless to say, it's still a quality. The same base principle is going to apply in here. 25 endurance at the mid game. At that point you can decide if you're going to be using heavy or medium armor. Vitality 40 to 50 end game, 15 early game, 25 mid game, and then strength and agility. Early game 17, mid game 20, late game 25. You can probably stretch that all the way to 30, but that would be like just too much. At this point, that's more than enough damage. Now the Black Feather Ranger, this guy, it's the agility build. You're not going to need that much endurance, so you can leave this guy either on 20 should be fine. 15 for the early game, that should be okay. The Black Feather Ranger axe does have a D plus into scaling for agility. It has a D on scaling, on strength. It's going to scale better with agility. With this guy, what you want to do is find a better agility scaling weapon, because this guy, this Black Feather Ranger axe, it's just not going to cut the deal. It's not going to be not enough. You do have a bow, so you have versatility around here and there, but if you want to a class that is going to start with a great agility weapon for melee, then the Exile Stalker, that should be the better option. But then again, the vitality, like always, it functions. The vitality works the same way for every single class. When it comes to endurance, this guy is not going to need that much because he's going to be wearing light armor, so 20 should be fine. And then you're going to ignore strength and pump up agility early game to 20, mid game to 30, late game, end game 40, 50, depending again on the soft caps. The same principle is going to apply for the Exile Stalker. But like I said, the thing that the Exile Stalker that it has is that the weapon scales with a C in agility, and it's also dual wielding. So if you want to be doing melee, it also has more agility. It starts with 16 agility, so you're going to get more melee damage at the beginning of the game if you want to go for a dexterity build with this guy. So yeah, very same principle, it's just the very same thing, it's just that one is going to have a better start with melee and the other one not so much. And then finally we have the spellcasting classes. We have the Radiance, the Cleric, and we also have the Inferno, and the same principle again is going to apply for them. They're not going to need that much endurance because they're going to be using somewhat of medium light armor, so endurance with these guys is going to be 20. Also, you're most likely going to be attacking from a distance, so you're not going to need that much stamina. So then again, 20 should be more than enough. 15 early game, and then 20 mid game, and you can decide if you want to pop up some more numbers around around there. The vitality, it's actually not going to be that much importance. Again, not that much. It is going to be important, but since you are in a spellcasting class, you always have the way of dealing quite a lot of damage from range. So 30, getting to 30, I think that it is a nice idea. And then, at least for the cleric, you are going to pop up all of your radiance points. It also has 18, so that's actually quite nice. Early game, you only have to spend 2 points, and then mid game, you place some 10 points more. Then late game, 40 to 50. Again, depending on the soft cap. The same principle is going to apply for the Pyromancer. It's just going to be the very same thing. One is going to be for Radiance, the other one is going to be for Inferno, and as you can see right here, both of them have very similar stats when it comes to how they begin. Granted, the Preacher actually does have a little bit more vitality and less endurance. On the other hand, the Cultist has more endurance and less vitality. They both start with Inferno 18, so that's nice. Regardless of everything, well, finally we have the Condemn. With the Condemn, we're not going to cover him that much because that is for a veteran that already knows what kind of playstyle is he going to adopt and the weapons that he's going to be using. But that said, the final thing that we need to have in mind is if you're going to be using the new school of magic, which is going to be like somewhat the dark magic. That is what you are going to have available. And what you want to do right there, it's the same principle for a quality. The same principle that you would have on a quality build. That said, that principle is that you are going to have the same principle for endurance and vitality, and then radiance and inferno is going to be increased to 18. Both of them have 18, so you already have the base 18 on one, then you raise the 18 for the other one on early game, and then on late game, mid game, 25, 25, 25 radiance, 25 inferno, and then end game 30, 30, or 35, 35, depending on how the subcaps works right here, if you want to make a dark mage. If you like the content and like an abridged, I appreciate it. Noah's told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. I will be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye.